It is recommended for the Mohrim to face towards the black stone, get close to it, but he must be cautious not to hurt anyone. Then he touches it and says, Bismillahi Allahu Akbar. This is to be repeated each round. Then he embraces it voicelessly, and if he fails to do so, he just points to it with his fingers. The circumambulator starts from the line on the ground set as the sign of the location of the black stone. Then he moves ahead, having the black stone on his left and avoiding crossing within the stone of Ishmael, because it is a part of the Kaaba. And when he reaches the Rukn al-Yamani, the Yamani pillar, the south corner of the Kaaba, he ought to touch it with his hand, but he does not embrace it. Then he says in between the Yamani pillar and the black stone,
ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار.
The 7 rounds of the circumambulation have to be quietly completed without losing any footsteps. The pilgrim has to make sure he has crossed over the line of the black stone in the last round. Women ought to avoid the crowd as not to get mixed up along with the men. It is allowed for both men and women to circumambulate on the upstairs or on the roof of the Mosque Haram. It is recommended for the circumambulator to do it in ramal, that is, a move at a swift pace without jumping in the first 3 circuits round of the arrival circumambulation. And performing the ramal in the circumambulation at a distance from Kaaba is better than getting closer to the Kaaba without the ramal. And it is also preferable for men only, not women. When the time of prayer has come during circumambulation, he has to interrupt it for prayer, taking into consideration the number of rounds already performed. While continuing with the rest, it is necessary for the circumambulator to be in purity. When he passes urine, stool, or wind, he must make an ablution and then proceed from the last round in which his purity was lost. And when he finishes his circumambulations, it is recommended for him to pray 2 rak'ah behind Maqama Ibrahim. And if there is a crowd, he can do it anywhere in the mosque, and he reads in the 2 rak'ah Surat al-Kafirun and Surat al-Ikhlas. Then he supplicates his invocations after them for his wishes in this world and in the hereafter. Mistakes made in the circumambulation. Let's be cautious for some mistakes that are committed by a circumambulator, such as not keeping one's sight away from forbidden things. For instance, looking at women. We must be aware that this is a place where committing sins is very bad, and mixing women with men besides the black stone. This is harmful for women and men. Also, such as the reset of the normal status of the Hajj garb, other than during the arrival circumambulation in Hajj and the circumambulation of Umrah. And one must not cross within the stone of Ishmael, because it is a part of the Kaaba, and whoever does that, such a round, is invalid. Talk is allowed in the circumambulation, and it does not nullify it. To leave it so as to have oneself busy with invocation and reading the Holy Qur'an. It is not allowed for the circumambulator to receive or embrace all pillars of the Kaaba, neither the gate of the Kaaba nor the place or the station of Abraham. It is not permitted to wipe oneself against them, because that was not revealed from the Prophet, peace be upon him. And one of the mistakes also is to specify some invocations for each round in the circumambulation. This also was not revealed from the Prophet, peace be upon him. But the right is that every one has to supplicate his own invocations secretly for what he needs for himself or his relatives, and for the ones he loves, or to have some words of the Prophet, peace be upon him, for invocations. Some people rub themselves on the black stone, seeking blessings. That is wrong, and the right way is to simply touch it with hands or to embrace it. It is recommended for the pilgrim to drink some of the water of Zamzam, and he has to drink as much as he can. Then he supplicates his invocations for what he wishes, from worldly matters to the hereafter, because it is a blessed water, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned in his sayings that the water of Zamzam is a feeding of hunger and a remedy for diseases. The journey between the mountains of Safa and Marwah. When he finishes with the 2 rak'ah, he gets out by the gate of Safa to perform Sa'i, and when he approaches the Safa, he has to recite the following verses.
الصفا والمروة شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم.
Then he says,
أبدأ بما بدأ الله به.
he starts from Safa, he climbs it, and when he gets into the sight of Kaaba, he says, Allahu Akbar.
لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أنجز وعده ونصر عبده وهزم الأحزاب وحده.
Then he supplicates for all his wishes and repeats this invocation 3 times, but he does not have to recite Labbaika, etc. When he finishes with these invocations, he gets down to proceed towards Marwa by walking at a normal pace, till he reaches the green sign marked on a pillar of the mosque. He should jog till he reaches the second green sign marked on a pillar of the mosque. Then he resumes strolling at a normal pace. But this recommendation is only for men, not for women. When he reaches Marwa, he has to repeat the same invocations he said on Safa. Thus he has completed 1 round. And then he performs the same for 7 rounds, and accomplishes his sa'i on Marwa. It is as well preferable for him to supplicate as much as he can between Safa and Marwa. Purity or ablution is not conditioned for sa'i. He can perform the sa'i without ablution, but better for him to have it. Some mistakes of the sa'i. One of the mistakes in sa'i is that when some people climb Safa, they point their fingers at the Kaaba, and this action is wrong. The right way is to have one's hands in a manner of seeking blessings or making invocations. This is only to be done while making a supplication. Shaving and clipping hair. When he has accomplished the sa'i, he has to clip or shave his whole head, not some of it. While shaving, it is recommended that he start from the right half of his head. Shaving is the best for men, but women have to clip from their hair the amount of a handful of hair, and she must not do this in public. Thus, with this shaving or clipping, a muhrim for Umrah accomplishes his acts. Then he takes off his Hajj garb and remains mutamati during the months of Hajj till the 8th day of Zul Hijjah, when pilgrims start going to Mina. The rituals of Hajj. After a mutamati has accomplished the Umrah during the months of Hajj and stayed till Zul Hijjah begins, he gets ready for this golden chance. When the 8th day of Zul Hijjah starts, he leaves Mecca to proceed toward Mina to pass the night of Arafah over there. Then he continues to Arafat after the dawn prayer and prays Zuhur and Asr prayers together at Namra, and stays at Arafat to the sunset. Then proceeds to Muzdalifa and prays there Maghrib and Isha prayers as a delayed combination prayer, and 2 Iqamah, and sleeps there on the eve night of the Eid, then moves by the dawn of the feast to Mina. He collects on his way the pebbles that are to be thrown against Jamaratu al-Aqaba that day. He slaughters his sacrifice at Mina, also shaves or clips his head. Then he goes to Mecca to perform the Ifadah, circumambulation, and the sa'i as well. After that he returns to Mina to stay there for the 3 days of Tashriq. They are the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th days of the feast. In each day he throws the pebbles that he has collected on his way from Mecca against the 3 jamarat, They are Jamratu al-Akbar, al-Kubra, the big one, Jamratu al-Wusta, the middle one, Jamratu al-Sugra, the small one. And when he has accomplished all these rituals, he returns to Mecca and performs the farewell circumambulation and performs Sa'i as well. Thus he really has accomplished the worshipful acts and rituals of Hajj.